then did you or did you not kill the people you said you killed?
I have killed the people I said.
And every time that I say that I didn't kill the people, it only helps these people here. And in order for me to stay here, they will, and protect Plummy, in other words, then I have to do as I'm told.
As long as I was going after the crooks that didn't have badges, I was everybody's hero.
Vic, we are on the air for another beautiful episode. How you feeling? You're looking great.
Thanks, Jonathan. So are you, man.
You wore a suit.
I did. I even pulled out my red tie.
Feeling empowered.
Feel empowered.
And it's your power red tie.
Yeah. And I wore a suit when I was up here last week because we did some little PSAs in front of a green screen. We're going to be putting those on YouTube. And so I put this suit back on this week. Mm-hmm. And this is only the second time I've had a suit on since February. Oh. I was in court in Georgetown in February and I wore a suit.
That's right.
Yeah. And that was the last time, because right after that was the lockdown. And
man.
And get this. Today, when I drove here to record with you,
yes,
is the first time I have driven in 2 months.
How'd you do?
You know, it was kind of weird.
Like riding a bike?
No, I really had to pay attention.
Oh.
I had to pay attention. But before, every time we came to town, my wife had business in town too, and so we'd just ride together.
I like that. Going into town. Pa needs some feed.
Yeah, going into town. Hitch up the mules. Might take all day. So, and
cool.
and she won't let me drive. Whether we're in my truck or whether we're in her car.
Is it like a fear thing? Like, you're not driving. We know how Vic drives.
I don't know if it's a fear thing or a control thing. Maybe a little of both.
It's probably a little control thing.
A little of both.
Maybe just a little bit of control.
Yeah.
Well, Vic drives
She's
laid back. You're a laid back guy.
I am.
Remember that? Those were your old commercials. And we're bringing them back.
We're going to bring them back. We're going to reshoot them because we can't play them anymore because they were made for the little TVs before they made the big TVs.
Yep.
And so we're going to reshoot them.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. We've got some ideas we've been talking about as far as some special photography.
Yeah.
And
I don't want to spoil anything.
I grew up in Texas. I love this place. I try to drive like I love it. I keep my speed at a lower pace.
How do you still remember it verbatim?
I don't know.
See, that's your mind, though. You remember certain things perfectly.
But this
morning, down to the
morning,
syllable and the accent. Other stuff, nothing. Gone.
This morning, I'm sitting there with somebody who works for me, and I could not remember her name. But it's not because I'm getting old. I've always been that way. I've told you the story about how my dad nicknamed me Goose when I was a kid.
Yeah.
He said, because you wake up in a new world every day.
And Top Gun hadn't come out yet?
It hadn't. No, he was calling me Goose, meaning I was goofy. But, woke up in a new world every day, never could remember anybody's name. You know, it was great. Always meeting new people,
There's
finding
both
new
terror
things.
and comfort in that.
Yeah.
Well, Vic, we have a fun episode today. I have to say, we found some old cassette tapes. Some of your White Snake REO Speedwagon mixtapes. Just kidding. These are some of your tapes from 85.
85, yeah, because we just finished April 85. We're going to be talking about this newspaper article that came out May the 2nd, but it was about something that happened on April the 29th.
Yes.
Still, so in a way,
we're still kind of touching April just a little bit, but we are in May.
Yeah.
And man, this is crazy. Preparing for this episode, we did some research, and man, this some other themes of our past episodes have really weaved in, and other guests.
And other guests, all weaving together right here today. We're going to talk about it in a minute. Yeah.
But before we do, we had an email that you wanted me to read here. Yeah. And it's a good one because it's about some future stuff.
Yeah, I was going to write this man back, but I decided apparently he listened to the podcast because he wrote to us through our podcast website. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to answer the question on the podcast.
So this is to Brian. And Brian said, "Hey, Mr. Feazell, still wondering when you will get to the Lake Waco murders. Until then, maybe you could give your views as to what you think happened to all the files and records related to that case."
On the first part, I don't know when I'm going to get around to talking about the Lake Waco murder, because we're kind of working on a timeline telling a story about Henry Lee Lucas, and I really want to get further down the road on that.
Yeah.
There have been places where we could have talked some about the Lake Waco murder, but, we were just talking about how I can't remember names.
Yeah.
I don't remember the names of the people involved in all of that. I just don't. I remember the names of the defendants. I remember the names of the victims.
Yeah.
But most of the witnesses, some of the other suspects, I don't recall their names.
Well, there's also, how many years ago was that?
Oh, that was, the murder was in 82, and the trials were in 84 and 85.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I tried 3 of those cases, 2 on a change of venue.
Wow.
And Truman Simons was the lead investigator on that, starting with the police department and then moving over to the sheriff's office and then becoming assigned to my office, but still working for the sheriff's office,
right?
Working on homicides. He was a fabulous homicide investigator. But, Truman and I, over the years, we're together, we're not together. We're in the ins, we're in the outs. And right now, he's on the outs with me. Truman won't talk to me. He's been mad at me for over a year. And I've been trying to get him to come on the podcast so that we can talk about the Lake Waco murders, because he remembers all those names.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't. When I was DA, thank God for John Vin Sutter.
Yep.
Because he used to follow me around everywhere. He went everywhere with me, to every fundraiser, all those crazy little things I went to, because John Ben Sutter remembered everybody's name.
Nice.
I mean, some guy would come walking across the room smiling, and we could tell he was coming in my direction, and John would go, "That's so-and-so. His wife is named Betty. They have 3 kids. Here's their birthdays. And the oldest son is playing football for Mart or McGregor or whatever."
Yeah.
And I'd go, "Hey, John, so good to see you. How's Betty? How's that football career going with Little John?" So, yeah.
Man,
Sutter was really,
cool.
He was good at it. And if it hadn't been for him, I wouldn't have been much of a politician, simply because I can't remember names. Yeah.
So, moral of the tale is, we will eventually get to Lake Waco murders, but it would be cool
but Truman won't come on. He's still mad at me. He got mad at me while they were making the Confession Killer.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be interviewed, and then he was interviewed, and then they didn't use enough of it, and plus he thinks I'm trying to take too much credit for things that he and Ned did. Well, he and Ned did a lot. They really did, on the Lake Waco murders and on Henry Lee Lucas. And I have the highest respect for both of them, and I don't think I've ever slighted either of them as being in the trenches with me. But, there was one guy at the top. There was one guy calling the shots. There was one guy that got led away in handcuffs. That was me,
that was
dude.
you. That was you.
That was me. Now, the thing about read me the second thing that he asked.
So he was asking what happened. Can you give your views as to what you think happened to all the files and records related to that case?
Well, I got to say, I don't even know what you're talking about. The files and records have probably been digitized by now. The whole file went up on the appeals, not just to the Court of Criminal Appeals in Texas, but there was a huge federal case involved, a habeas case, where they were allowed to come and take depositions. I had my deposition taken. Truman's deposition was taken. All the evidence was gathered. All of it was looked at. So it might be with the Fifth Circuit, or at least copies of it would be with the Fifth Circuit.
Cool.
Because they ended up writing the opinion and upholding all the convictions on David Spence, and finding that we didn't do anything wrong.
That's right.
There's been all this disinformation about the Lake Waco murders, and this man's name is Brian.
Yes.
Brian, that might be why you're interested in it, because I think this is the second time you've written to me about this. Although that could have been somebody else. I have trouble remembering names.
And full circle.
So there's been so much disinformation about that case and flat out lies about that case. I'm telling you, the damn Texas Monthly owes me and Truman Simons both an apology, because they come out with this big ass article with these pictures, of here's a picture of me and there's a piece of string going over here to something and another piece of string over to here and a piece of string to Truman, and all these, made it look real sinister. And they're talking about how this case was going to be reversed and the real killers were going to be revealed through this magical technology of DNA.
Ooh.
Well, what happened?
Well, nothing ever happened.
Nothing ever happened. They submitted a bunch of samples from names that I can't remember. Possible suspects. The defense lawyers did it. And none of them came back as a match on anything on the Lake Waco murder.
Right.
Now, why didn't they submit their own clients?
Well, I think you know why. Vic.
I think I know why. It's because they did it.
You know why.
Brian, if you want to know about the Lake Waco triple murders, read the book Careless Whispers. That tells it better than anything. And I'm telling you, Carlton Stowers did a good job on that. He knew that case backwards and forwards. He sat through nearly every day of trial.
That's cool.
Now, if you want the records, I'd recommend a Freedom of Information request or open records, whichever one would apply to that. Send it to the Fifth Circuit, send it to the Court of Criminal Appeals, send one to McLennan County, whoever the record custodian is now, because all that's changed since I was there.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when I left, I had a couple personal file boxes. Trial boxes, banker boxes I had made to help me with trial. There's my own personal notes and the transcripts of some of the testimony that had been put together from the appeal. But no, just Google it. Go into the Fifth Circuit records. Boy, the Fifth Circuit's got so much stuff. Read all that. And if you're not successful, well, maybe you'll have more success with Truman Simons than I've had. And give him a call. Write to him, friend him on Facebook, send up some smoke signals, something, and maybe your questions can be answered. So,
all right.
That's all I know about the Lake Waco murder. Read Careless Whispers. I pick it up every once in a while and reread it just to help me remember what I lived and what we all lived through.
It's a crazy time here in Waco.
Crazy time. And the book is really good to Truman, and rightfully so. What are we talking about today?
Well, today, Vic, man, we're in May, but we're tiptoeing back into April. This is again about Lucas, and this is a series of articles we found, as well as some audio recordings we're going to play from a televangelist by the name of Bob Larson.
Yeah. Bob Larson. Yeah, I think I've referred to Bob in podcasts in the past. I call him that crazy radio preacher from Colorado. And I have to correct myself. I apologize for this. He's in Arizona now.
He is.
Yeah, so he's a crazy radio preacher in Arizona.
What's crazy is when we were doing research about this podcast, we pulled him up and looked at him. Man, I've seen this guy before. This dude is like the kind of guy you see in fail videos, like craze videos that go around. You share them with your friends. And this guy went on to do some things.
Yeah, his videos are crazy, especially the exorcism videos.
Right.
But you'll have to go to YouTube to see it. You can't see it on the podcast. But it's pretty entertaining.
This is some crazy stuff.
Yeah, it said he was instrumental in promoting the satanic panic.
Right.
Yeah.
And this loops back to our wonderful friend who was on here a few months ago, Mr. Jason Baldwin. And the whole West Memphis 3 case was fueled by that satanic stuff.
Yeah.
And here's a guy who, full circle, Vic, turns out was one of the main propagators and just passing this crazy stuff along. Yeah. He was a major figure promoting satanic ritual abuse and satanic panic scares of the late 1980s.
I wouldn't be surprised if he had something to do with the West Memphis 3. If nothing else but the fact that people had read his book promoting this satanic panic and talking about ritual Satanism and
well, before
all the stuff they were accusing Damien of.
Right. And so before he had fully gone into West Memphis 3 and all that satanic stuff, he was cutting his teeth with our little friend Henry.
Henry. Oh, here's the name of his book, Satanism, The Seduction of America's Youth.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the kind of atmosphere that was in the country back then because of all these stupid books that are just total lies. This one, the one about Henry Lucas called The Hand of Death.
Yeah.
Where he was supposed to be in this big cult, you know?
Yeah.
And him and poor old dumb Otis, who couldn't even rub 2 dimes together. They had to stand in line at the missions just to get something to eat.
Wow. But
they were somehow financing all these big trips to Mexico with little kids where they could rub blood on them and kill them and then get back home and get back to Jacksonville. And it's time to sell some scrap metal.
All right. We made it.
We made it.
So Bob Larson, this guy has a crazy history, though, Vic. He had his own TV show on Sci-Fi called The Real Exorcist back in 2008.
He got his own TV show?
He got his own
TV show? This guy got his own TV show?
Yeah. Yeah. We can't get one.
I know. What was it called? Oh, The Real Exorcist.
The Real Exorcist.
The Real Exorcist. You know what? If it'd get us a TV show, I'd go around trying to cast the devil out of people.
Hell yeah, man. Bring him in. Line him up.
I heard a story about this young preacher. He was brand new. He was giving his first sermon. He was excited. And he wanted to let the congregation know that he had been God called to heal the sick, raise the dead, and cast out the devil. Okay. But he got a little tongue-tied. He got confused, and he says, I've been God called to heal the dead, cast out the sick, and raise the devil.
Uh-oh. Well, that went totally wrong.
So a lot of these radio preachers, they're not casting out the devil. They're raising the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
they're stirring the pot and getting sweet people like Jason Baldwin convicted of a crime he didn't do because of this satanic panic, this scare stuff.
Right.
And Bob Larson had an interest in Henry Lee Lucas because
he did.
Yeah.
How did this even come about, Vic?
Through Sister Clemmy.
Okay.
You know, when we call her Sister Clemmy, don't get her confused with a Catholic nun. She wasn't even Catholic. That was just her moniker, her name at the jail. Sister Clemmy, she was a spiritual advisor and would do Bible lessons and teach people. And she met Henry that way.
Okay.
And brought Henry to Jesus, you know?
Right.
And she really believed that she had gotten this serial killer to believe in Jesus and that he was a saved soul now. And so they were parading him around, man.
Right.
I mean, the Rangers were parading him around. Larson was talking about him on his radio show. Sister Clemmy was somehow connected with Bob Larson because when we got Henry away from the Rangers in April, and they had the big brass meeting to figure out how to get Henry back.
Right.
Well, Clemmy got scared, and she called Bob Larson needing some spiritual reinforcement.
Interesting.
Yeah. We have a tape. We're going to play bits and pieces of the tape. I got this tape because Bob Larson mailed it to me.
Oh.
His interview with Henry and what he put on the radio. He mailed it to me. He mailed it to the Texas Rangers. He mailed a copy to Ed Walsh. He lists off several places that he mailed, maybe even to the Attorney General, Jim Maddox. And he said because he was concerned about truth, and he wanted the truth. And so we'll go through the tape and see that. But it was really interesting because we've talked before how, as a serial killer, Henry was a lot more valuable commodity to book writers, to radio preachers,
right,
to people like that, than if he was just a serial liar.
Right.
You know. So that's the situation. Clemmy had called Bob Larson for some spiritual help, and Bob, he seized the opportunity So, man, he hops on a plane, and before you know it, he's in Waco, Texas.
Right.
Sister Clemmy was there, and they let that crazy preacher into the jail until one of the jailers decided, we probably should call Henry's lawyer, Guy Cox, because Judge George Allen had appointed this lawyer for Henry when we brought him up here and got him away from the Texas Rangers. We all felt like Henry needed representation. He hadn't had any representation before. Now, I shouldn't say that. He did have representation before. He had a couple really good lawyers on the Orange Sox case.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't cooperate with them. He wouldn't help them at all. And then he'd go right back to Boutwell confessing.
Well, remember too, and that the Ranger Task Force was keeping him so busy that those lawyers couldn't properly represent him. They couldn't nail him down to even talk to him.
They couldn't. They'd go to the jail to talk to Henry, and they'd go, sorry, he's out leading us to a body.
Yeah.
By the way, Henry never led anybody to a body. He led them to survey stakes, and and the way he did it on the Deborah Sue Williamson case. That's the ones where Bob and Joyce Lemon's daughter was murdered.
Right.
It's just comical to hear about the way he picked out that house. How they would slow down and back up and slow. And he said they finally just parked in front of it. And Henry said, well, that looks like it could be it. But he had everything wrong about that house.
Right.
The door, the door that he went in through.
Suppose he went through.
Yeah, had been blocked by a huge china cabinet for years and years. And the house had been painted a different color.
Right.
He didn't know that. And
oh, man.
All kinds of crazy stuff. Claimed he killed her in one place where, in fact, she was killed in another. Nothing in his confession to Deborah Sue Williamson matches up. Right. And we want to do a program soon and dedicate it to Deborah Sue and to Bob and Joyce Lemons.
Yeah.
And maybe we can even get Deborah Sue's sisters. We have finally figured out how to Zoom three-way with me and you on camera, but our guest on the Zoom. So we might be able to start doing some of that.
That'd be good.
But anyway, Sister Clemmy gets Bob Larson in to see Henry. And Bob starts, just like Boutwell, pulls out his little tape recorder and starts taping Henry.
Then did you or did you not kill the people you said you killed?
And then the jailer says, well, maybe that lawyer should be here. And Guy Cox, thank God, he was in his office, and he hightailed it over to the jail, and he was there within about 20 minutes trying to put a stop to that interview.
Wow.
Not because he was afraid of what Henry might say,
right?
But because he was Henry's lawyer.
Yeah.
And did not want Henry incriminating himself one way or another.
True.
So, they never cared about Henry's civil rights as long as he was confessing.
Right.
As soon as he recanted, that's when they started looking at trying to indict me and even Jim Maddox for violating Henry's rights by taking him away from the Rangers and getting to the truth.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy what happened, Vic, when old Bob Larson came around. And we'll start with this article. It says, Lucas claims pressure to retract slayings on radio show.
Yeah.
And this is from May the 2nd. So, yay, we're in May.
Yeah, and look who wrote it.
A little guy by the name of Mike Cox.
Boom, 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 boom. Media horror for the Texas Rangers. Media horror for Colonel Jim Adams.
So, well, let me ask you this before we start the article. Had the grand jury reconvened? Was it back yet?
I'd have to look at the timeline. It was right about here that they came back.
So
we might find it in the article if we go further.
Okay, but this is just another show of this is on a national level, the push to discredit what you guys were doing and discredit Henry's flip-flop.
Yes.
So the article starts, it says, Waco. Henry Lee Lucas said in a video or audio taped interview broadcast nationally Wednesday by radio evangelist Bob Larson that he was compelled by McLennan County authorities to say he had never killed anyone but his mother.
Compelled.
So he goes on the show and says, and Vic and those authorities in McLennan County were forcing me to say I didn't kill him.
Then did you or did you not kill the people you said you killed?
I have killed the people I said.
And every time that I say that I didn't kill the people, it only helps these people here. And in order for me to stay here, they will, and protect Clemmy in other words, then I have to do as I'm told.
So I killed the people. I killed the people.
God.
May 3rd, McLennan County Grand Jury reconvenes on the Lucas matter.
Wow, so this article hit the day before.
Yeah. Bob and Joyce Lemons testified to the grand jury concerning the death in Lubbock of their stepdaughter, Deborah Sue Williamson. The grand jury was recessed shortly before 5 p.m. Feazell and Assistant Attorney General Reed Lockhoof would not comment on the proceedings.
Wow. So this dropped the day before you guys came back.
The day before. So my grand jury was reading this BS the day before they came back. And not only this, but all that stuff, from the retired Rangers about House Against Motherhood and America and apple pie if I was attacking the Rangers.
Right.
Mike Cox had an article right before this where he interviewed
all of your friends.
Yeah, he interviewed all these unbiased
they were
people.
Not your friends.
Unbiased people like Tom Pauken.
Man.
We used to call it, he had a radio show called Talking with Pauken.
Yeah.
But everybody up in my office called it Squawking with Pauken.
Perfect.
And sometimes we even referred to Pauken as puking because he would just throw up whatever the establishment told him to say.
Wow.
I told you about his background with the Republican Party.
Yes.
And
yes.
Man, part of his mission was to take me out and to prop up the Texas Rangers and to prop up Colonel Jim Adams. So we had that other Mike Cox article that came out where he interviewed Pauken, he interviewed Felipe Reina.
Right.
The
guy
DA
you beat?
I beat, who just hated me forever. Now, and I don't really have anything bad to say about his son, Abel.
Sure.
I don't. Everybody gets criticized when they're in office, but all I know is that Abel took on some difficult cases. It wasn't good the way the Twin Peaks thing was handled, because that's still going on.
Right.
But he's the one who retried Ed Graff.
Right.
And got a conviction on that. He took on a lot of scary things and did a good job. And they said, well, some of his staff members were talking to the FBI. Well, so what they say, apparently not much. He hadn't been indicted, has he?
Right.
So now I got nothing bad to say about Abel. First time I met Abel, he was maybe 9 years old.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, they interviewed Felipe, so he had some more nasty things to say about me. I told you about that video I found of Felipe when they were investigating me.
No.
Yeah, I told you about it, where he says, I think anytime that the DA gets under this kind of scrutiny, he ought to just immediately resign. Well, and then, look, 40 years later, it's happening to his own son.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
Wow.
Full circle.
The worm turns. But
the worm turns. The worm turns.
Yeah. But you guys that retried Graff, you will have my eternal respect and admiration. Because, man, no way should that guy have walked. No way.
Crazy.
And then he ended up only serving like 6 more weeks because he had done so much time on the first sentence where my office had convicted him. Mm-hmm. I was the lead prosecutor on that case. And but he was a dangerous man. He's the one that I truly believe blew up the boat that we were all supposed to be on that July the 4th.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a wild
the
story.
Texas Fire Marshal investigated that and said, wow, this boat was rigged to blow up. And he showed us exactly what had been done with the fuel line to put in spark plug wire taken off so it would spark right next to all of this gas vapor.
That's crazy.
Yeah. The guy who owned the boat went out early that morning to just do like a shakedown cruise and make sure everything's okay. There weren't any wasp nests. And when he turned that key, it blew him like a human cannonball up through the air, and he landed over in the lake. Right next to two guys that were fishing. Wow. If they hadn't been right there in that boat, he would have drowned and died right there.
Wow.
He lost a finger in the explosion, or maybe two fingers. He was wearing a cast. Yeah, he was wearing a cast when he came to testify against Ed Graff in the first murder trial.
Whoa.
Yeah, because we were all going out there on July the 4th, and the trial was starting right after, or resuming or starting right after that, and Ed was out on bond. Almost no bond. I think it was only like $50,000 for murdering two little boys, because even the judges here didn't think he had done it. Everybody thought I had gone crazy prosecuting this good pillar of the community. He had like 20 members of his church come testify for him.
Wow.
But the evidence was good. We had good evidence on Graff. Just like Brian, we had good evidence on David Spence.
Yeah.
Those are solid cases. Both
Can't wait to get to those. Those be
Yeah.
Woo.
Hi, I'm Vic Feazell. During these trying times, you might want to just stay home. And at the law offices of Vic Feazell, we understand. That's why we're set up to handle your personal injury claim without you even having to come in. Just give us a call, and we'll take it from there. We can send any paperwork straight to your smartphone or computer. Don't delay, because if we don't put money in your pocket, you don't owe us anything. I'm Vic Feazell.